Welcome everyone. This is MileSplit Live presented by New Balance. I'm Corey here with Travis and Brian. On the couch behind us we have our guy Trent and a guest, Jojo Gretschel from FlowTrack. She's going to be here later with us talking bun huggers, but we're going to start first with our National Performers of the Week as we always do. This week, Dustin Horder from Lakota East in Ohio won that honor after a pretty big race over the weekend. So congrats to you, Dustin. You get a MileSplit annual subscription. The only thing is you got to contact us, so we got to hear from you first. And then on the girls' side, Caitlin Toohey from a phenomenal performance at the Manhattan Invitational. She also wins the National Performer of the Week. So congratulations to those two athletes to begin our show. Let's get right into it. We have a great guest with us right here today, MileSplit Live. A really fantastic prospect, Rebecca Story from the Christian Academy of Knoxville. She's our number 5 Flow 50 ranked runner. She's going to go to Stanford. She recently committed on Twitter to the Cardinal. Welcome to our show. How are you doing, Rebecca?
Great, thank you.
So congratulations on your recent commitment to Stanford. That's probably a big decision for you. Being from Tennessee in volunteer country, how did your family take it that you were going to commit to California school?
Yes. Yeah, so my family's lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for pretty much my entire life. I've been a Vol fan since I can remember. So when I started this college decision process, my family was really supportive of me going, wherever I felt like would be a great fit for me, no matter if it was right down the street or across the country, like Stanford. So, that's kind of what they told me. Like, I wouldn't go home on the weekends anyway. No matter what college I went to, I was going to be there and be there for good. So when I announced my decision, my family was really excited for me.
Now, you told one of our webmasters in Tennessee that you also looked at Baylor and Georgetown. Those are 3 really great programs, obviously strong academic histories. What separated Baylor, Georgetown from Stanford?
Yeah, so when I first started the recruiting process, Stanford was actually the very first one to send me a letter. So that really got my interest and set the tone for the rest of the year. And I always kind of had Stanford in the back of my mind since they were the very first ones to reach out to me and express interest. So as time went by, other coaches started reaching out, and my decision to visit the schools I did ultimately came down to what coaches I really had formed relationships with, and what had expressed interest in me and truly cared about me as a person, and didn't just want me to be a part of their program, but really cared about me like long term, and not just win team championships and that kind of thing. So, and when I talked to Coach Milt, we kind of shared the same, and Coach Liz, we shared the same kind of goals for myself and the team, and that's what I really liked about it.
What kind of moments stood out for you when you were on the Stanford campus? I mean, did you have sort of that magical feel about it? I mean, did you have anything that stood out for you and you remembered and you took back to Knoxville?
Yeah, so obviously Stanford's a really pretty campus, very beautiful area, and the students there, I noticed, are just so passionate about what they do, whatever it is, and everyone seems so open and accepting of whoever's there. So I think everyone, when they go through the college recruiting process, kind of gets that feeling once you're, the place where you want to spend the next 4 years, and that's what I got at Stanford.
Did you have any tour guides there, athletes from the Stanford program? I know this past recruiting class they had Julia Haymack and Jessica Lawson, among others. I mean, who acted as your unofficial tour guide?
Yeah, so Nevada Marino was my host, and I got to stay in her dorm, and she showed me around, and it was just a really laid-back weekend. We hung out with the team, and I loved getting to stay in the dorms for the official visit. I really felt like that kind of immersed me, and I got to experience it like a student would. And definitely the one thing I really loved about the visit was just the realness of it. It wasn't sugar-coated at all. I got to experience what a real Stanford student would experience. So everyone was super honest about it.
What do you think one thing you learned from that visit from the team that you might not have learned from coaches or speaking to coaches?
Yeah, the team's definitely very fun. I loved hanging out with them a lot. And we did a lot of fun stuff. Like we had a big kickball game that was definitely a lot of fun. But they also told me, the reality, it's college, and you're going to, have to balance school and athletics and that kind of thing. But it's not all going to be not going to be easy. So obviously Stanford stresses academics and athletics. You're going to have to do everything in moderation, and they were really honest about that, and I really appreciated that.
How do you feel about committing to a program that recruits nationally, competes nationally, and is very renowned both in cross country and in track and field? Joining a program like that is a tall order. What are your feelings on maybe getting into that?
Yeah. So one reason why I chose Stanford was just because of that rich history, especially in the distance program. And especially when I talked to Coach Milt and Coach Liz, their goals post-collegiately and collegiately seem to line up with mine really well. And that's one thing I really loved about it. And also just having a variety of training partners that are really going to push each other so we can all be the best runners we can be. And I really feel blessed to be able to be a part of that. And I really believe in the program and what they have the potential to do in the next few years.
Now, coming into that moment in November when you have a chance to sign early with Stanford, I mean, is that a dream to you? Do you feel like that's something that you've always dreamt about?
Yeah, definitely is a dream. I couldn't be more excited to sign. And, Stanford's just, I think, a great place for me academically and athletically. And that's really just the whole package. And I really loved it.
One of the last things, you finished third at Foot Locker Nationals last year. You're going into your postseason now, regionals, and then states at Tennessee. What's in store for you in the remaining weeks of your season? What can we expect to see from you?
I have my region meet this Thursday, and that will qualify me for state the next weekend. And then my regular season's over then, and I'll get into postseason. So my postseason, I'm going to be doing the Hoka 1-1 Postal Nationals. It's like a 2-mile time trial that I've done for the past few years. And then I'm doing Foot Locker again. So I'll be doing Foot Locker South and Foot Locker Nationals if I'm really hoping to do well at Foot Locker Nationals. So.
Strong field, Claudia Lane just demolished Mountain SAC in 15:49. Do you feel like you compete with Claudia Lane at Foot Locker?
Yeah, I met Claudia at Nike Elite Camp this summer, and I love her. She's so sweet and just, amazing runner. And I'm really proud that she did so well at Mount SAC this weekend. And, I'm looking forward to seeing her at Foot Locker again and competing because she's just a great competitor and someone who's great to run with and going to really push us hard.
And before we go, actually, we had a big discussion last week about bun huggers, and I guess the situation that revolves around young girls and young high school girls that wear this attire for cross country meets. Where do you stand when it comes to wearing something like a bun or a bun hugger?
I've never run in buns before, so I can't really speak on their comfort, I guess, but I think everyone should be able to run in what they're comfortable in. I think it was a big deal in New York, or that's what I heard, but I think just being confident while you're running is really important, and whatever you want to wear to do that should be allowed. Absolutely.
Well, we expect great things from you next couple of weeks of your season. Thank you so much for coming on, Rebecca, and I'm sure we'll see you and we'll talk to you soon. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care. All right, so Rebecca Story was a huge signing for Stanford. It seems like they get these, world-class high school athletes every year. What are your thoughts on maybe her making that decision and joining the Cardinal after such a great recruiting class last year, too?
I think they're kicking it off on the right note. Last year we saw it was recruit after recruit after recruit. You finally thought, all right, they can't possibly get more of the top distance athletes in the country, and they just kept going, and they're keeping that ball rolling now with Rebecca Story. I think she's a phenomenal athlete. There's a lot of potential there. Now she's targeting Foot Locker, another big rematch between Claudia Lane. So for Stanford, this is a huge step again in the right direction to getting another really strong recruiting class.
Definitely huge. You look at FlowTrack's their rankings for the college, and Stanford's ranked number 7. And then, you know, you move over to last year's recruiting class, just continuing to pile on names. So like you said, she stayed with Nevada Moreno, Julia Haymack you mentioned, Jess Lawson, Caitlin Ryan, all these names, some big, some small, even on the guys' side too. Like Stanford is really doing something huge things in recruiting over there. Yeah,
number 5 on our Flow 50 rankings. One of the top senior recruits, I guess, across country. So, you know, she mentioned one thing to end the interview about bun huggers. It's been a big controversy, I guess, that started in Long Island with a parent who had a little bit of an objection to hitting her daughter, maybe her high school. A little bit of an objection. It has raised the roof of the entire cross-country and running community all over, and we're going to bring in Jojo Gretschel now from FlowTrack. Jojo wrote today on MileSplit on FlowTrack about her experiences with wearing bun huggers and how she, you know, really thinks of the issue. So, Jojo, what are your thoughts here? I mean, can you describe maybe your experience wearing them, or what your thoughts on them are?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on. It's my debut on your guys' show, so I appreciate it. And, you know, I feel like when a lot of people first start running cross country, they, you know, bun huggers seem weird. It's like, why are girls running around in like underwear, bathing suit bottoms? But basically, and if you read my article, I kind of go into it a little bit more. But the reason I eventually embraced bun huggers was because that's what the girls who are performing the best, you know, in high school, the girls who are winning state, winning the big invitational meets, that's what they were wearing. And in college, the girls winning NCAA, that's what they were wearing. And then when you start to follow the sport at a bigger level, at, you know, Worlds, Olympics, that's what the women who are setting world records and winning these big competitions are wearing. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is that they really are more comfortable. That might sound weird, but like, you know, the most popular things to wear in a race are spandex shorts and buns, I would say. Like some teams still wear like loose shorts, which are fine. But like the way that a lot of spandex shorts are made, they actually ride up more than bun huggers do. And even though from, I guess, an outside perspective, bun huggers look like they show off more, once you start running, a lot of spandex shorts do just go up your butt right away. And then you're like thinking about that while you're running, and it's really distracting, and you like want to tug it down. And it's just like personal experience and talking to a lot of girls, because I reached out to my own running community and people on Twitter and asked, hey, what do you guys think? And a lot of people kind of echoed that same sentiment. So buns are comfortable.
Can we say how disinterested Trent is right now with what JoJo's saying? Tunnel vision.
He's just pretending. He's pretending. He's eating this up.
Placebo effect. Obviously, you said there's a placebo effect with just wearing them. I mean, what is it about, like, the idea of it looks faster, it is faster?
Yeah, so I was talking about this with my roommate because she also ran cross country in college, and so we were talking about this issue a little bit. And I kind of compared buns to like putting on your superhero suit. You like, it kind of mentally just gives you this edge. Like, this is totally different from what I wear in practice every day. Like, now I'm really ready to go and I feel fast. And I think especially, well, you know, I was talking to Brian a little bit before we started the show, and Brian admitted he used to shave his legs sometimes to feel faster.
Hey man,
so it does apply to men as well. And I think women, you know, you see a lot of women putting on like a full face of makeup or doing their hair in a cool way. And, you know, I think, you know, we derive a lot of power from how we look. We feel prepared to perform that day, and we're going to perform well.
You know, since she kind of called me out here, we used to shave our legs because it was like, you know, the same mentality. You get faster, you feel faster, you look fitter, you feel better. So like when you shave down your legs, you kind of show off the muscle, the definition. You feel just like, just better. It sounds crazy, but you get that feeling. And then the same thing, like we used to dye our mustaches and stuff, but that didn't have to play into the race effect. That was just for looks, you know, feel good, look good, race good, you know. So I get what you're saying with the feel good, look good, ready to race sleekness.
One of the biggest issues that the parent raised is that maybe girls aren't always given a choice, or they're just told this is your new uniform, wear it. Do you feel like that is the case? Do you feel like that's a misconception? Do you feel like all girls have a decision on what they wear?
Well, so I wasn't totally educated on this before, you know, I reached out to my community to see what people thought. And you know, there was one girl who reached out to me who I actually ran against in high school, so like a while ago. And she was on one of the bun teams. And so I just kind of assumed that everyone who wore them wanted to wear them, but she actually was forced to wear them. And I think rules on uniforms differ by every state or district you're in, but I guess for where we lived, all the girls either had to wear matching shorts or matching buns, and there couldn't be a difference. And I know in some places there can be one girl who wears a different bottom. So in her case, they would vote before every race, buns versus shorts. And she said usually buns won, but she was uncomfortable. You know, she still didn't want to wear it. And I think in that case, that's unfortunate, and you shouldn't. If there's an issue like that, I don't think that people should have to wear buns if they're uncomfortable.
Yeah, the one story I did about the former Florida runner back in 1996, one of the reasons why her team was DQ'd in the state championships was because 5 runners wore buns and then 2 runners wore spandex or shorts. So that's one of the reasons why they were DQ'd. They weren't all uniform.
Can we just get rid of these like caveman rules for high school cross country?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're the same color. Like, who cares what the style is?
Well, I mean, let's I guess end with this. Do you feel like if there was a ban, say there was a ban, would that ultimately hurt the sport? Would it push it back in some ways? Do you feel like, does this have any merit? Do you feel like we'll have any change from this?
I don't think anything is actually going to come of this, personally. I think that if somehow there was a ban in this specific section, I think it would push the sport back, because I just don't think you can go backwards. Anytime you go backwards, you're regressing. And I mean, maybe, you know, in the beginning when women first started to be able to compete in track and cross country, yeah, it's a little sexist that like this bathing suit bottom was the original, that's what everybody had to wear. But now it's like, it's canon. Like, this is just for like 50 years. This is what people have been wearing. So to go back would make people question, you know, why. It would just be wrong.
All right. Well, Jojo, thank you very much for being on our show. Formerly of MileSplit, senior editors, moved on to FlowTrack. So read all our stuff on FlowTrack. Thank you for having us.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you for being here. Cool.
All right, definitely a hot topic going around the
Yeah.
cross-country community right now, and I think it's very polarizing too, and it's maybe not quite as black and white. There's some gray area in between.
We talked earlier about male uniforms, though. A lot of times, some of the controversy stems from male uniforms because a lot of like malfunctions happen when guys are running. So it's like this controversy in some ways is a little ironic because a lot of the issue sometimes comes down to the boys running too, because things happen. Yeah, but all right, let's move on to actual cross-country action. We had a great weekend of action, and we'll start first with Bozeman, Montana. They won their state championships both on the boys and the girls side. Last year, as we know, the boys won NXN, girls were 8th. And maybe the question here is Bozeman legit? Should we fear Bozeman moving ahead in the season?
I think when you look at the girls, the answer is definitely yes. When you look at this team compared to where they were last year, this Northwest region is shaping up to be pretty strong on the girls' side, and they've lost their number 2 runner who was very strong, but Alex Moore has been developing well. She's now running super strong for them behind Camilla No. They have 2 of the best 1-2 runners in the country now. They don't quite have that depth in 3 to 5 as, say, a Great Oak or FM, but for a team that's fighting for a top 5 or on a really great day at podium spot, you have to be looking at Bozeman, and now it's making everything really interesting because the Northwest region, you have Sunset and Jesuit, you have Mountain View, you have Bozeman. Now the whole wild card picture is getting thrown for a loop because the teams are super strong. I think Camilla No has a very legitimate chance to score 1 point for her team. Not that she'll win NXN, but she'll be the first team finisher in this race. So Camilla No, very legitimate low score for this program. They don't have necessarily the elite 4 or 5 runners, but they have some depth in 6 or 7 to fill in those holes if need be. So I think this is a very dangerous team as we look ahead towards the regionals and nationals.
And yeah, I'm going to talk on the guys' side. I think the girls' side, you're correct. On the guys' side, I feel like the team is there. I don't think they're at that winning the national level again. And that's because if you look back at some of their past performances, yeah, the state meet was good. They definitely improved. Looking at the speed ratings, they showed some improvement, especially in some of those lower back guys. You know, at Bob Verman, they were at 159. You know, this is their fifth runner, 159. Now they're 163, 158, 162. So improvement, definitely. One of those teams that's going to be up there nationally and on the podium maybe even, I think it's hard to tell because you got teams like Timpanogos, Springville, Central Valley, even in the Northwest region there. I know Tempe and Springville are in the Southwest. But you look at those top teams at Bob Verman, and those 3 teams that I mentioned beat them at Bob Verman. And yes, Bozeman's shown improvement, but I don't think it's enough to take down the Springvilles, the Central Valleys, the Timpanogos once they do get there, if they make it out of that Northwest region.
Yeah, that was a special team on the boys' side last year,
Yeah.
and they didn't really recoup a lot of the losses from there. But on the girls' side too, here's something that aids them when they go forward into Annex N is the elevation. They run elevation almost the entire season at their state meet in Missoula, 3,200 feet altitude. So they're running at this altitude. They come down for Annex N, Portland suggestion that they qualify, and then they come in a completely new team. How much do you think that impacts a team like Bozeman, or even in Utah, some of these teams run altitude too?
Yeah, you see it pretty consistently, not just in cross country, but also in track, when some of these athletes have come down from elevation, had some outstanding performances. You know, I throw back to Garrett Balachek at New Balance Nationals a couple of years, kind of pulling off the upset in the 2 mile, coming down from Utah. And you see it, you know, every year going to Foot Locker, NXN, these teams are performing incredibly well in the postseason. It has to be a factor, and it has to be benefiting Bozeman. Our new, shout out to Grant Grosvenor, our new Flow Track content marketer, but I talked to him for a long time about Wisco and Prenats last week, and he's from that area. He's raced those Bozeman guys all through high school. He said it was just absurd. They just kept reloading year after year. They're just so strong. This Bozeman team was just unbeatable, and there's a lot to these guys, what they can do. And I'd have to say, you at least can't sleep on them. Last year, they definitely came into nationals underranked. I don't necessarily think they were disserviced to say there wasn't a lot on them to win nationals. That was still a huge upset, but they still came in underranked. And so for them, are they going to win nationals again this year? No, but I think we still got to see this team come through regionals before we completely write them off, because I think there's a lot to what they can do.
Their top two, Duncan Hamilton and Leonard McComas, are both from last year. They were on that team, but they have 3 new guys in the back end. So, you know, working in these guys the entire season, how much will they fit in and the meets that work or that are important? So that's
their girls have been very consistent. They've been running well all year. They've been obviously Camilla no, but they've just been winning a lot of meets, at least performing well. With the Bozeman guys, it's been kind of a rocky up and down. They're winning some, losing to Lewis and Clark. It's been a little up and down all year. Ultimately, NXN Northwest is what matters the most. If they can execute there, then all that doesn't matter. So we just have to get to that point. And girls, it's going to be much more difficult for them to qualify. The boys, this competition's not as strong. So it could be a very close race, because I think those teams are evenly matched. But the girls are legit contenders for a top 5.
One of the biggest talking points this season has been sort of the competitiveness of 4 or 5 guys and girls. And we'll move to a Texas team, Keller, who was phenomenal today at the 6A regional win. They're really strong in their top 4. You know, they're trying to figure out what their 5 is. I mean, where do we see this team ultimately going? Do you think they could be a podium finisher at NXN?
You know, it's crazy. They ran this morning. You know that.
I'm already talking about.
Yeah, those Texas regionals mixing up MileSplit Live this week. But for Keller, their 1 through 4 are phenomenal. They had a 17:23 average at the Region 1 6A meet. If you look back at the history of this meet, especially over the last 5 years, where it's produced some really strong teams out of Marcus, Hebron, and South Lake Carroll. The only team, you have to collect an all-star team to find a better 1.5 average. Like you have to look, Marcus is the only, Keller was 17:30. You have to collect the best times from Marcus over the course of the last 4 years to collect their all-star times to have a team with a 7.23 average. No other team has had a better average on this course than the Keller girls had this morning. Their top 4 are phenomenal. Right now, Julia Black, Isabel Van Camp are running really well. Centaurus in the mix. Cambria Clark, that transfer I talked about getting here, is great. But they do have about a 75-second 1.5 gap.
Yeah, you're former Texas webmaster, Brian. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and first of all, huge shout out to Isabella Van Camp. She's been crushing it all season for Keller. She's been pretty much their #1 girl, I think, all year. And, you know, we thought it was going to be Abby Santoro, Julia Black. They're still up there really high, but Isabella Van Camp really crushing it after a huge state meet performance last year in the 800. So big shout out to her there. But, yeah, I mean, you look at things, and you look at that 5th runner. And, you know, I was just saying before this, like, their 5th runner here didn't have a terrible race. She finished like 15th. But once you put that team into that larger field at an NXN meet, that displacement of that 5th runner just hurts them immensely for a top finish. But the nice thing about their 5th runner is they have several girls right there, right around her. You know, and I'm looking at the region meet results currently, and it was, you know, 3 girls. Let me find where the tab is. They had three girls right in the region.
Van Camp and Julia Black were split by about 4 seconds as their 1-2, and Abby Santoro and Cambria Clark were again, I think, split by less than 10 seconds. So you had about 30-second gap between those four, and then 75, 1 through 5.
Yeah, so it's McKenna Palazzi, Sydney White, and Gabrielle Thies, who's a freshman, by the way, who are all kind of right in there with Riley Christian. And she ended up being, I think, their 5th runner there. So if they can really get those girls in the next few weeks, they still have some time to really develop them and get them to where they need to be. I think they're in serious contention for a podium.
You gotta have the 5th really confident at that big meet, though, that regional and at that national meet. You have to have them confident enough where they believe that they can hang with the 5th of the Great Oaks of the world, the FMs of the world, the Naperville Norths of the world, and sometimes that's a tall order too.
It is a tall order, but I think right now this Keller squad is better than any other team in Texas, hands down. I think their region is a good shower of that. Even their district is a pretty solid shower, but their region has some of the strongest historically Texas teams with, like Travis said, with South Lake, with Marcus, all in the mix there. So I think this Keller squad is really one for a special season.
Right. And when you look at that 75-second gap, 1 through 5, specifically at this region meet, and they've had 60 seconds is not uncommon for this Keller girls team this year, but when you look at nationals, and 60 to 75 seconds and what that means, that's 100+ points in that gap. So you're talking about having 100 to 115, 120 points on the table with your 5th runner before your 1 through 4 even are in the conversation against these other really deep programs around the country. To be top 5, you have to be looking at 200, low 200 point scores right now. And I think that's very difficult for this Keller team. If they can tighten that gap, then it's a whole other conversation. But right now, I think from the beginning of this year where we were saying this is podium potential. This program comes in with podium potential. We've seen that gap kind of go out and stay in this 75, 70-second range right now. Now you're having that conversation, are they a 5 or a 10 team? Because with how deep all these programs are, and no one is that those teams from the gap from 5 to 10 is going to be pretty tight. And for them, I think with that huge gap that they're going to have here and the amount of athletes that are going to come in between that, this could be a team that finishes 5th, or they could finish 11th, and that gap and how it develops in the next month is really going to tell
a little bit of time. State championships in Texas are November 4th, so we'll see another ideal situation of how they finish in there. But let's go to SAC Invitational.
Oh man,
we had an epic performance by Claudia Lane, 15:49 at that course. Obviously, it's changed a little bit, but for the most part, it has stayed the same. What do we think of this 15:49 with her speed rating 166? I know you're big on the speed ratings. That's the exact same speed rating of Caitlin Tui from Manhattan Invitational. So
I mean, my biggest takeaway is I'm sad she's not going to NXN because I think we all have that feeling that's where Tui's going, and that's the matchup we want to see. I mean, we've talked about a lot of. We just had Rebecca's story on. I think she is a legitimate contender for Foot Locker Nationals. But Claudia Lane is just at another level right now.
That's insane.
Caitlin Tui and Claudia Lane are the only two in the same conversation. And so to see those two split is really, that's the thing I'm the saddest about looking at this, is I just want to see that match. Selfishly, I want to see that.
Claudia said that she's going to go to Foot Locker Nationals, but Caitlin said
when I talked to her, she was leaning towards NXN.
Okay,
she was leaning towards
something's
NXN
got to give. I feel like two best runners in the country, they only have one more year pretty much when Claudia becomes a senior next year to really compete. So are we going to see that? I don't know. But let's talk about this Mount SAC Invitational race.
Yep.
You were there. What did you see from Claudia Lane that really told you that this was something special?
It was just an overall dominating performance. And I know her and her coach walked the course the day before. I actually saw him out there during, I think there was some of the sweepstakes races on Friday. And her coach had a very detailed race plan going into this meet. And, he was walking her through the course, and they run up the switchbacks, which was where I was. And I was like, I think that's Claudia Lane. And it was. And, he said to her, he's like, this is where you're going to attack. Here's where you're going to do this. So I know that they went through that course spot by spot by spot to figure out, okay, this is where we're going to use the course to our advantage. And she pretty much took it from the gun. There was nobody surrounding her, around her at all. And there's some really good girls in California. So for her to be able to do that and just run away with it, like she did, and then she kind of walked me through the game plan after, and she said, this is how I executed. And her coach was super thrilled with her performance as well.
And she said, attack the hills, attack the downhills.
Yep.
Right? So she's not letting off the gas pedal at any moment in that race, which is special.
And it takes a lot to do that, because those hills are no joke. As you saw from last year, I've saw from this year, the gradient on that. And Trent's run it before, so we're good there.
Hashtag fake news.
That poop out hill, man, it gets right in front of you, and it's tough. So yeah, big props to Claudia Lane.
All right. Another great performance, maybe just as special, Great Oak on the boys and girls side.
Yep.
How was this under sort of reported? Is this sort of like under the radar how well that they performed at SAC?
Brian, I'll let you speak first since you got to see him in person out there.
I talked to Doug Souls quite a bit before, during,
We've
and
heard
after.
Of him before.
Yeah, and you know, and he's given us some criticism and some very constructive feedback towards the rankings and things. And you know, he says, watch what I've said. I've said, here's where we're going to do this. Here's where I'm going to do this. Here's where we're going to do this. And lo and behold, this is what they've done. And their speed ratings, I mean, they don't lie. They say it better than ever. 186, 184, 182, 180, 176, 173, 173. Hands down, the best 1 through 5, 1 through 7 in the entire country. Like, their depth right now is on point and considerably awesome.
Why won't we budge them with Loudoun Valley then?
If you look at Loudoun Valley, so they are. So Great Oak is now the #1 squad. But if you look at Loudoun Valley, they're still searching for that 5th man. And you know, they're a great team. Their 1 through 4 is very solid. You got the big, strong guys up there like Sam Affold or Peter Morris, the big name runners, Hunter. And you look at that, and those top 4, they're great, but they really got to find that 5th guy, 5th, 6th, 7th guy who can maybe step up and be the 5th man on any given day. And I think right now Great Oak has that depth to be able to do that.
Yeah,
the national meet were today.
I think we're 1 round too late moving them up to #1. I've been a strong advocate for Loudoun Valley not quite proving that they have that spot throughout the season, and Great Oak continues to execute against really strong competition week after week.
California's no joke.
No, these guys definitely no joke. These guys. One thing that has kind of gone across the internet and the California fans have spoken out strongly against is this course was faster than previous years, and the California fans get very salty when you imply that there's something going on, and that is a fact. I look going all back to 2011.
It might be a fact, but I don't think it has
to
do as much with the change as you'd think. I think that the conditions played very well. You know, it is a course change, but not specifically the course itself. It's the conditions of the course. I think that, you know, as I saw, it wasn't as dusty as it normally is. They did a really good job of watering it down, which made for better footing on some of those hills. And they also, the temperature was like almost ideal. I think it maybe hit 70, 80 by some of the midday races. Like, so the sweepstakes races were quite good conditions. This is where I know I've heard in years past I wasn't there.
Right, but that plays into it.
It does, and I just said that.
It's not that the course is short, but the entire course ran on
I feel like the way that you're looking at it is
faster.
that the course, because it's changed, and a lot of people are like, because the course changed this year.
No,
like,
that's exactly not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you look at it as a whole, this course ran an average 20 seconds faster than going all the way back to 2011. That is a fact.
Are you taking anything away from the performances that took place, though? That's sort of your.
I don't know what you're referring.
No, because you have to look at the data, and the data shows that when you look at the top 10, the elite finishers, the difference is negligible. There's only about a 3 to 4 second difference, which means nothing. So at the elite level and the top individuals at SAC this year, going back to 2011. There's no difference whatsoever. Nothing should be put against Claudia Lane's record or her performance, the top individuals. But the race as a whole, yes, the race as a whole, the group, the chunk, the vast majority of athletes are averaging 20 seconds slower relative over the last, going back to 2011. That is what happened. It can't be argued. Those are the statistics.
Okay, you're right. Nothing can be argued.
No, what I'm saying is those are the facts. That is exactly how it happened. But when you look at it, I don't necessarily. That needs to be kept in perspective. I think the Great Oak fans felt affronted when they saw the speed rating adjustment. But when you look at this course, there is a reality, and the speed ratings are meant to reflect all conditions and et cetera that go into it. So for me, that doesn't take away from Great Oak. I think they should be #1 as they are, and that has happened. Their performance is phenomenal. I think the Great Oak boys proved they're the best team in the country, and Great Oak girls proved that they are going to be legitimate contenders at the national championship.
Well, one girl, their #1 all season, Tori Gayton, is a transfer too into their program. So imagine Great Oak girls without Tori Gayton. She's been leading them the entire season. They're phenomenal with her.
Yeah, as I say, I think they're still phenomenal without her. I think that they're
they're #2 right now, and I mean they're still phenomenal without her, but with her, they're a contender.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a difference between a podium team or not. She's a very key member of that team. I thought as an individual too, that was her best race of the season.
Yeah, 16:52.
Right. I think that bodes really well for them having a really strong low stick now with her. If she continues to develop in this way and keeps improving throughout the season, that she's not just another strong girl in that pack, that she's going to be distancing herself as an individual and scoring some very low points from Great Oak.
Well, one thing that Doug Soul said is that he believes FM's going to beat everybody by 100 points at NXN.
Yep.
I don't believe it. But we'll see what happens down the line. We had our Flow 50 rankings released today. On the girls' side, no surprise, FM, after their monster performance at Manhattan Invitational, moved back up to number 1.
Yep.
Pretty much where maybe everyone thought they should be, but it's FM, Great Oak, Naperville North, Buchanan. So it's a really loaded top 4 in the girls' field. And little is going to separate the girls' team, I feel, from here on out, because we're getting into state championship season.
Yeah, we've already seen it with some of the other programs out of the country, Centerville, Carmel, that you don't always have to run. When these programs that are strong as deep as they are, they don't have to run their varsity team to qualify to state. So between here until we get to the regionals, we're not going to see those big head-to-head matchups anymore. A lot of these states are broken up into divisions. We're lucky enough with Springville and Temp to be able to see them go head-to-head in that 4A in Utah. But for the most part, these teams are spread out. We're not going to see the head-to-head competition. They may not have to run full squads to get where they need to be, and those teams do need to rest those athletes. It's been a long season. You want to keep your athletes healthy. So for now, to the NXN regionals, we're not going to learn too much more than we haven't already found out about these programs.
Yeah, I mean, and then on the guys' side, if we want to look at the rankings, you know, some of the things, CBA moves up 6 spots after their big Manhattan win, and you know, they were another team that felt a little slighted as they'd been getting bumped down, and they proved at Manhattan, hey, we're here to party, like I said in the interview to them.
Oh my gosh, stop using that.
Hey man, if you're here to party, you're here to run well, and you're here to get the job done. That's the way I see it. And then, you know, Springville, obviously, like you mentioned, moves up 3 spots after a very, very impressive state meet performance. And then in the state meet merge, American Fork bumped in there at number 2, so we had to throw them in at numbers 15. I think they're another squad that I think we maybe underrated just a little bit.
I think American Fork's dangerous.
Yeah, they were on the rankings for a while. They got dropped off after not seeing them race a couple times, and then now they're back there, and I think they're another team.
Brother Carson Klinger is leading American Fork as their number 1, so watch out for American Fork.
Yeah.
Traditionally, one of the best teams in Utah. They've won that state championship for at least 7 seasons now in a row. Well, 6 out of the past 7 seasons, so they're really dangerous.
When you look at American Fork, when I think of is a team dangerous, how legit are they? Would they finish 3rd at the regional? Would they be brought to NXN? No. And they're not a wild card team. They have to get an auto qualifying spot. I think Timpanogos is in the same boat. Even though they've been highly ranked, you can't afford to finish on that bubble because the other regions have too many strong contenders, and I think in the long run that they're not going to get the nod over. So I think for the Southwest, you do have 3 Utah teams in the mix now. When American Fork at the beginning of the season, I don't think we gave them enough credit as having a legit chance to make NXN. They do now, but is the Southwest going to get 3 teams like they have the past couple years? No, absolutely not.
Probably not. It's a tough region. It's a very tough region.
Well, our season is only unfolding, and the next few weeks is going to be fun over...
I got to give a shout-out first to my New York teams out there. Burnt Hills made a big jump. They've been going quietly throughout the season, but they're now moving into the top 10. They've proven that they have the best 4 out of almost any team in the country. They're right up there with all these other top 3, top 5 programs as having the best 4 runners of any team that's out there. That 5th runner is the Achilles heel of pretty much every team in the country. This is the year of not having a 5th runner. And also Corning, those guys, Quinn Nicholson, the number 1 runner is back. They executed their race plan just to jog along with their 4 guy through Manhattan. If he had been running, this is a theory, if, ands, or buts, they would have beaten Green Hope at Manhattan. So this Corning team, which right now, flying under the radar, again, that depends on their number 1 being healthy by the time we get to the regional. But we'll have to see moving forward. They'll race head-to-head against Ithaca to try to qualify for the state meet. Then hopefully if they get through there, we'll be able to see Corning possibly at full strength racing head-to-head against FM for that state title. Then that will make things really interesting. This Corning team now just sliding into the rankings the past couple of weeks. Now we'll see how high they can move up, if they can get healthy. If they can, this is a really legit program. All of a sudden we're back to the conversation that, where of course I was right about with New York's going to get a wild card this year.
Trent, do we have anything from Twitter or Facebook?
It's pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet today on Facebook, but we got Eric Brennan saying that Wednesday's New York Suburban Council Championship meet will be hands down one of the best races this year. Burnt Hills, Saratoga, Shen, Guiderville or Guiderland, Guilderland.
Yeah, there's some
the New York guy over there.
Yeah,
and Bethlehem. So
Guilderland took one of the varsity letter races at Manhattan. I remember that should be a solid competition.
Shout out to the Noah and Noah show. Keep holding it down. But I think that you're right. The Suburban Council meet's always really good. We'll see how strong Shen is. There's no one's going to challenge Shen for the team title, but get some elite runners, get Hannah Real, new Wisconsin commit, out there against Kelsey Camille, see how long she can hang, pull herself along to a really legit time. But it is, we said we're not going to learn a lot more from these teams, but there's still a lot of really great competition happening at this like sectional county level. And speaking about to FM, less than a week after running at Manhattan, they come back at county and had another phenomenal race in less than a week span when they could have just jogged through it. They still come and cruise to some ridiculously fast times. So there's a lot of stuff to pay attention to over the next couple of weeks.
We have Colorado State Championships and Indiana State Championships. Both of those should be really, really good. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, MileSplit.com has everything you need to know about cross-country season, so stay tuned for more on our website. Obviously, tweet at us if you have any questions at MileSplit or on Facebook for comments. Does anyone have anything else?
Stay locked in. Hit us up for recruiting news. Last week, Eric Edwards revealed his commitment here exclusively on MileSplit Live. If you guys want that same opportunity for exposure in front of the entire country, let us know. Slide into those DMs and keep us up to date on your commitments. If you go to the college commitments signings page on MileSplit.com, it's the most comprehensive list of college signings for track and field cross country anywhere on the internet. I believe we're up over 200 total commitments in our database right now, which is insane. So keep hitting us up. Let us know what you're doing. We want to help you out.
All right. Thank you for watching. This has been MileSplit Live presented by New Balance. We'll see you next week.